Welcome to the Sisters of the Moon podcast, conversations about change with wisdom keepers from around the world, mystics who serve as spiritual midwives to support our global family through this time of chaos, crisis, and initiation. I'm your host, Tanishka, the Moon Woman, and we're glad you could join us for insights that penetrate the dark, transforming pain into empowerment. We welcome you, your kin, and your ancestors back to the Moon Lodge, the sacred hub of community where we gather to distill our wisdom. Hi, welcome to episode 3. Lovely to have you with us. I'm so excited to share today's guests. We have on the show Helen Zee, who's a leading voice in relationship dynamics, intimacy, and somatic fertility support. Yes, we're speaking about natural fertility today. She's the co-founder of the Melbourne Fertility Expo in Australia. She's also a holistic fertility practitioner, a podcast co-host, and author of Consciously Conceive Your Baby, the inner secrets to boosting your fertility and getting pregnant. Helen weaves science, soul, and embodied wisdom to guide women and couples through one of life's most tender journeys. We also have joining the show Francesca Naish, and she's a qualified and accredited naturopath, herbalist, and hypnotherapist. She has over 40 years' experience. We bow to you, Francesca, as an elder in this community, your experience in this practice in Australia. She's the founder and director of Jocelyn Centre, Australia's first integrated naturopathic and medical clinic that's devoted to helping women and couples manage their fertility effectively to conceive healthy, happy babies. She's trained health professionals in Australia and overseas in her methods and is the author of 6 books, many of which have been published internationally, and she appears frequently in the media as a popular speaker and lecturer. So welcome to the show. Let me just get you in the room. Hello.
Hey.
Great to have you with us today. So for those who don't know me, I'm Tanishka. You might know me as the Moon Woman, a name that stuck back in 2011 when my Facebook page went viral. But now that I'm postmenopausal, I'm embodying the moon rather than mothering everyone with daily lunar wisdom. So this show is dedicated to gathering wisdom keepers from around the planet, giving voice to women of substance, women that can help to midwife the collective through transitions and change, which is when we're most vulnerable. So I'm very excited to speak with you both about natural fertility. I did a quick search and I see that the stats currently, we have 17.5% of adults worldwide experiencing infertility, which is roughly 1 in 6 people. And it's affecting, I'm currently in the UK doing events, and it's affecting 1 in 7. In Australia, it's 1 in 6. So when I Google it, it says that 25% is no identifiable cause, and I find that, quite high. It's kind of an acknowledgement that don't necessarily know, haven't been able to identify why so many people are having issues. I've certainly got my ideas, but I'm looking forward to hearing yours. But before we get into it, I would like to just invite you both to join me in lighting a candle, because this show, we kind of roll like a virtual moon lodge. So we want to invoke, as we light our candles, the clan mothers, the women that exist in the celestial spheres and preside over women's mysteries. So the collective wisdom that women accrue through journeying cycles, says she, if I can light a match. Feeling like the little match girl over here. Okay, it's a very old box of matches. How are we going with you? We might need to just rely on your candles. Oh, there we go. I've got a flame. So we dedicate this to all the women that are currently taking that journey to through life. And we honor you all, and hope that today's show brings insight, brings remedy, brings support and compassion for your journey. So
You lost me.
I did, but you're back.
I am.
Okay, fantastic. And I always pull a card for every show. Normally I use a Kali deck, but I'm being hosted in Essex at a wonderful community called The Barn in Hockley, and they've got a deck here called Earthcraft. I pulled a card and it's Rise, and here we see a woman like the Phoenix, number 22, which is a master number attributed often to the swan, to Sarasvati, the lady of the lake, one who has, transcended. And this
Beautiful.
is the message of the card that, we can transcend our fears and our traumas by directly confronting them. And I did a fire walk this week to confront my fear of persecution. So this is certainly on point for me. I hope it speaks to those of you watching and to our wonderful panel. So let's get into it. First of all, I'd like to hear from whoever feels to speak first. How is fertility affecting women's well-being on all levels? Since you're in the coalface, you're both working directly with women that are journeying this. Who wants to speak to that first?
Helen, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What I find is ultimately, it's the losing of trust in the body, something that is biological, inherent, that we are born with through the millennia of being in our human species. To be able to question why isn't it happening, it comes down to the trillions of cells that are going against the natural force of nature in procreation. And here we've got a lot of mental reflux that takes place, a lot in the head, trying to figure it out. Why isn't it happening? And I also find that there is a piecemeal that takes place in the body. There is a divorcing of the body and self. And we live in a society and an industrialized society, and now the turning point of a technological society. And we are what we affiliate, we assimilate. And I'm finding that even working as long as I have in the area of fertility, I'm also finding how much is changing as our societal pressures change, but also the technological advancements that are taking place, and what has been happening and unraveling in our ecosystem is literally affecting the person on the personal level, not just the collective level.
Thank you. Yeah, you're so articulate about it. I mean, I know this is your passion subject, but wow, lovely. I saw that in Europe, things markedly declined in fertility from 1980 to 2003. And I went, well, that's when mobile phones and personal computers were introduced, isn't it?
Exactly.
Francesca, do you want to jump on in?
Yes, well, it's this toxic world that we live in. And people don't realize that it affects us in every way. I mean, our health, our mental health, our physical health is all affected. But particularly our hormones, because we are subjected to endocrine disruptors everywhere we go. And then we're looking at the unicellular sperm and egg. So men have to be part of this as well.
Absolutely.
Because they are absolutely affected. In fact, if you look at the down playing of fertility over the decades, it's often measured through men's sperm because that's easy to measure.
Oh, yeah.
And if you go from, say, the middle of the last century to now, there's about an 80% reduction in sperm count. Now, and this is all to do with, as you say, phones, computers, endocrine disruptors, chemicals, plastics, heavy metals, you name it, it's all here and it's around us at all times. But when you're looking at the unicellular egg, and particularly when we have so many women now who are trying to get pregnant in their late 30s and early 40s, And their eggs are already having a bit of a problem. But because of the endocrine disruptors and the toxins that they're exposed to on a daily basis, their eggs, it's not just their hormones, it's their eggs. And that means that the baby that is born is also going to be affected unless we do some really thorough work before the conception takes place, when the eggs are developing and the sperm are developing, because they are so damaged these days.
Wow.
We're living in a really toxic world, and it's
Yeah.
no fun. And fertility is a bit like the canary down the mine, you know, it's the
Yes.
first to be affected.
Yes.
Because if you affect an egg or a sperm and either damage it or benefit it, you know, because you can do both, then everything that comes from that, so it's the unicellular start that you start, and then every cell that comes from that, all the daughter cells, are similarly affected. So our job, people in the fertility business and natural fertility business, is to make sure that in the preparation phase for a conception, when eggs and sperm and hormones and everything are all developing, these people are as well protected and as well detoxified and nurtured and so on, so that when they actually get around to it, because otherwise they can go on trying for a very long time, and either they won't conceive or they'll have health problems with the pregnancy and the baby, which we're seeing over and over again. And of course, IVF, the technology comes, it's wonderful technology, but it doesn't do any of that other work. It just gets egg and sperm together. It's just a transport system. So it's amazing technology if you need a transport system, but it doesn't do the preconception health work, which is becoming really urgent. Because otherwise, and if everybody did preconception healthcare, we'd have a healthy population, you know.
There's the soundbite.
And preconception care or care for your fertility is not just when you want to get pregnant. Our fertility lasts our whole lifetime. So from before menarche to journeying through our fertile years, whether with the choice is to get pregnant or not, taking care of our body through nature cycles, means that everything that we spoke about before, about the endocrine disruptors, the toxic load in the body that starts to build over time, like this is where we get affected then on the other side of our perimenopause and menopausal. So it's not just fertility is basically you being born in a male or a feminine body, and then you making those choices that you want to make. So I say that fertility health, and you just focus on it more so for preconception, and especially the detoxification that needs to take place. Because when Francesca was speaking, the one thing I was nodding a lot, because what I also want to add is, as women and men are having children a lot older, we have been exposed to a lot more endocrine disruptive chemicals for a longer period of time.
And it's cumulative,
Exactly. It's cumulative. So my parents, you know, I'm nearly 55. So yes, there were some EDCs, endocrine disruptive chemicals around, but now I read somewhere a couple of years ago, there was something like 160,000 different endocrine disruptive chemicals in the supply chain around the world. So that's
going to take a while to process. Jeez.
It's
everywhere. And for women, one of the things that's really difficult for women is that most of these endocrine disruptors a lot of them, the majority of them, are what we call estrogen mimics. And you can't get a progesterone mimic because it's a single hormone, where estrogen is a family of hormones. So a lot of the plastics and the other endocrine disruptors are creating an emphasis on our estrogen levels, which means endometriosis, fibroids, fertility problems, you know, PMS, bad periods.
Thank you for explaining that, because I wondered, it's like, why are we hearing endometriosis? It seems to be becoming fever pitch. And I was speaking to a woman at a gathering day before yesterday, and she had one child. She said that, you know, she would have liked another, but she had, oh, and forgive me my ignorance, the type of endometriosis that is not in the uterine wall but in the muscle. And her periods were so painful, you know, she was popping Nurofen, ibuprofen, not realizing that that impacts your fertility. Ibuprofen, that was like, I had no idea, and that's so freely available. And if women are experiencing period pain, it's like just gobbling that, not realizing you're impacting your fertility. That for me was like, oh, I mean,
but amongst all this bad news, of course, we have natural medicine, which can do wonders with all of these things.
Let's speak about the positives.
There's also the good news.
Right. So, Helen, do you want to kick us off with what you would say to somebody who's listening, who, you know, really would love to have a baby and would like to improve their chances of conceiving naturally? Like, where would you start?
Sure. I would start, if we can talk about a timeline and honoring a timeline, and this isn't us just wanting your money, this is biology. So if we can explain, and there is an inherent understanding of this unicell cell that takes not just 3 months, it actually takes 6 months. But then if we just go from in the follicle, from when it starts to grow, etc. When a woman is ovulating, that egg is a sum of, especially the last 4 months of how you slept, how you ate, your stress levels, your happy hormones.
Wow.
It's nature nurture. So I'm going to say 4 months of preconception care. So what you can do is you're looking at your food, look at your sleep-wake cycle, which affects your hormonal profile with, you know, your cortisol, your melatonin, how much detail do we go into? Cortisol, melatonin, and cortisol can affect progesterone. Progesterone then affects the balance of estrogen, and so it goes. There's a cascading of
so just to put that in lay terms, if you're not sleeping well, that's really going to impact, you know, your sleep-wake cycle is going to impact your production of the hormone progesterone to keep you sort of balanced. Is that a fair
through the hormone melatonin, which is to do with sleep cycles as well as having effect on other hormones, because your endocrine system is a huge complex of things that all affect each other. And
like dominoes, isn't it? If one's out, they all go out.
So the wonderful thing is that we do have, you know, we have herbs, we have nutrients, we have dietary advice, we have lifestyle advice. We have ways of just reading labels and making sure that there's nothing toxic in the product that you're consuming, you know, or touching or breathing or whatever. So whenever you're trying to conceive, you have to do even more of the things that you should be doing all your life, because it affects us all our lives and through into menopause as well, that we're living in a toxic world that is full of endocrine disruptors and things that damage our cells, and it doesn't help us to live into good old age either. So, you know,
so if toxicity is the issue, would you recommend that women do like an intensive detox or more of a gentle detox? Okay.
Gentle. Yeah.
All right. So you're unified on that. Yeah. Do you have suggestions like, you know, what would you say?
Straight off the bat, I would say find someone that is qualified and follow their guidance. Don't follow things off Google, etc., because all our organs have got their own detoxification cycle. So our digestive system, we eat, we wee and poo. That is detoxifying from the body. When we sweat, detoxification. When we've got our bleed and through our menses, that is a 28-day cycle for the uterus to go through its detoxification and start all over again. And so it all works in synergy. So a lot of people go gung-ho with doing a strong liver cleanse, but if the other organs and your elimination system pathways are not open, you might open up the toxicity out of the liver, but if it's not going to detoxify through the elimination pathways, you actually have that circulating through your body again, and you can actually cause a lot more damage. Would you?
Thank you. Jump in, Francesca.
It'll even come out through your cervical mucus into your vagina.
That sounds nasty.
You don't want to be doing a heavy-duty detox just before a conception attempt. So we have to rely on the body's natural ways of doing that, but then we have to support it with all the antioxidants and the good herbs that assist your liver and your kidneys and your gut and your microbiome and so on to help do that. Looking at your exposures, which are not always avoidable.
Before we go on to exposures, may I interject? So when we speak of herbs, I understand that dosage is very, very important. So rather than just going to the health food store or the chemist and trying to treat yourself by getting the supplements that you see online, again, it's about individual assessment, isn't it? Like
absolutely, you need to see a qualified naturopath or herbalist who is able to assess your complete situation. And especially if you are looking at things like menopause or fertility or so on, it's going to take in a whole lot of different parameters. It's not just your hormones or, you know, this or that. It's everything. It's your whole lifestyle, your whole diet, all of that. So if you go through the preparation for either fertility or menopause treatment with a good qualified naturopath or herbalist, you're going to end up really healthy.
I'm healthier in menopause than I ever was before. But we'll keep to the subject. Because I interrupted you, where were you going in terms of other factors?
Oh, in terms of other factors for fertility.
We were talking about it's not just the endocrine disruptive hormones, chemicals, like we got to look holistically at the body when we are taking supplementation. And one thing that I've got to add is that it's also the food that we eat. So if you're going to just take supplements off the shelf and then you're also eating your natural sources, you might be over ingesting certain vitamins and key minerals, etc. So when you are working with a professional, they will probably do a food diary as well. So then you'll know the types of food and the quantity of food to eat as well. And then the supplements top you up. The herbs help with the detoxification or with the building of the chi in the body to help, to help the energy in the body stay a lot stronger, I mean,
I was speaking with a nutritionist a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying, it's all about food as medicine rather than taking lots of supplements, which of course then the liver has to process as well. So, it occurs to me, yoga regulates the sleep-wake hormone
cycle.
Yeah. So is that something that you both, suggest to women or some sort of physical?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Exercise, really important. Stress management, really important. Sleep, really important. Buying organic produce, really important.
Okay.
Purified water, really important.
Purified as opposed to spring water?
What?
Purified water as opposed to spring water? I've just been reading Austin.
Not spring water. No, spring water could have come through any soil and picked up anything. That's not purified at all.
Wow. Okay. We want to be drinking purified water, organic food.
As much as you can. All of these things, you do what you can and you rejoice in what you can do and you don't panic about what you can't do.
And I absolutely agree with you, Francesca, because when I work with people, I'll say to them, I'll give them the latest Dirty Dozen Clean 15. So every year around the world, so whether you are in the UK or in Australia or wherever you are around the world, you've got depending on what was happening in the soil and in the rain year after year, there is a list that gets published on the net, and it's called the Dirty Dozen Clean 15.
Yeah.
And I update that. I give that to my clients. I say, you have it on your phone, you have it on your notes. So when you go shopping, if you can afford X amount of dollars to go on organic, go for the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
So it might be berries, it might be mushrooms. So focus on that. And the Clean 15, well,
maybe you can get it as a farmer's market or something.
And it's okay if it's not going to be organic. So we have to just try and make things
doable
for people. And we also have pick and replace.
I wasn't aware that was updated every year. So that for me is like light bulb.
Yeah, every year. Yeah. And there's also an app. I've got it on my phone. The brand is called Yuku. And you scan a barcode and it gives you a score out of 100. And it tells you if it's incredible. So it tells you.
How do you spell Yuku for people listening?
Y-U. I'm going to go in just to make sure that I've got the right one. Y-U-K-A. Y-U-K-A. So it's got a carrot. And Yucca. And if you scan, it'll give you, like I had tamarind paste, and you think it's a raw ingredient to put through a lot of your things that you're going to make from scratch. It got a 4 out of 100. And when it says it's a red and you look at it and then it tells you the additives, these particular additives have got nanoparticles. So it actually tells you how those additives affect your endocrine system, your nerve system. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I would have thought that tamarind paste in this particular brand, I'd go and make my.
Do you know what? That is gold information for women on any age of the spectrum.
Absolutely. Another way of doing it is to say, never trust the front label with all the greenwashing.
Thanks.
Read the labels on the back label, the ingredients. And if there's anything you can't recognize, go to one of the websites like the Chemical Maze, which lists all the chemicals and whether they are endocrine disruptors and whether they do this and that. So it's another way of doing what Helen's just explained. Yeah.
Awesome.
And being particularly careful of animal products because toxins end up in fat. They're fat soluble. That's the reservoir. So animal products are much more likely to have toxicity issues, particularly the organ meats. And organ meats, of course, are often used in sausage and mince and so on. Now, the organs
that's great info. Yeah.
Well, the organs are either where all the toxins end up or they're where all the nutrients end up. So if you're buying organic organ meat, you're getting a whole load of goodies. And if you're buying non-organic organ meat or anything made from them, you're getting a whole lot of toxins.
So befriend a free-range butcher if you love to eat sausages.
Because what Francesca is saying is exactly the same for the human body. For us to detox, what we need to do, it's like, every week the big garbage truck comes. So we've got the big garbage that goes out and gets picked up by the garbage truck. But in your home, when you're cooking your food scraps, you've got little garbage deposits, right? So our body's the same. And let's just think of our fat and because it tries to get out of our essential organs. So our fat and our brown fat, etc., can actually be quite toxic because it's trying to take it out of the heart. It's trying to take it out of the kidney, the liver, the stomach, spleen. And so if we're not eliminating properly, so through exercise, through healthy lifestyle, that just becomes the pickup truck.
Got it.
That doesn't get picked up off the street for a whole year.
What about dry skin brushing with a loofah before you get in the shower?
Oh, yeah, I mean, all of these things help.
Like just, as many things that you could do to help the body detox naturally.
And if you are trying to conceive, you've not only got to get rid of the baddies, you've also got to get the goodies in. Because babies make themselves from what they get from the egg and the sperm initially. The mother doesn't provide until a little bit later into the pregnancy. So if your eggs and your sperm, because you really need the blokes to be in on this as well.
Yes, exactly. It's not just the women eating well. If he's eating crap, got it.
And they're not usually they don't usually realize how big their role is, because, you know, we menstruate every month. We get to know our fertility to a degree. Men often are in a bit of you know, unawareness about the fact that they are still a very important part of this picture. So when I'm seeing people for conception, I always try and see both partners, because the men are hugely important and they don't always realize they're important. And when we get to age, this is particularly important, because as everybody gets to the late 30s, not only do they become less fertile, the women, but they also increase the health problems with their pregnancies and their baby's development. Now, a man can go on being healthy being fertile for a very long time, but the health problems that he donates to the pregnancy and the baby start at the same age, in the late 30s. So any man who's in his 40s is already creating a possible problem with the health of the pregnancy and the baby, and most men are completely unaware of that. Whereas the women are much more aware. We see a lot of
dads that are older with, you know, younger partners that are still fertile.
Can I add I'll add a couple of things to that, with what Francesca was saying, and about our responsibility in the conception and the health of the growing baby. When I was writing my book, I was ready to publish it, and I came across a research study which showed that the male sperm is equally contributing to the health of the placenta. So
absolutely.
The genome, the genetic material, and the health of that male is equally responsible for the placenta as is the mother.
Absolutely.
And also add to that the menstrual lining that would have been shed, that then an ovulation takes place, a pregnancy takes place. The tiny embryo feeds on that lining until the mother establishes the placenta and the blood flow to go from mother to baby, and that becomes a superhighway of nutrients, as well as the detox of the baby. So uterine lining this is why we speak so much and educate so much with preconception healthcare, because the lining that would have been shed becomes a food source for the baby before the placenta and the blood flow is fully functioning between mother and baby. And that happens at around 9 to 12. I think it's about the 9-week mark, if I'm
approximately,
if I'm recalling correctly. So that's number one. The males as well, through their sperm, the health of the placenta is really, really important. So the other thing that I want to add to that is, one thing that I talk about is women that want to freeze their eggs. And I just say, don't freeze and forget. You want to freeze, because what you're freezing is cryogenically everything that is you in your body, and the imprint and the blueprint of your health in that moment, you have frozen into your egg or into an embryo, if it's going to be a frozen embryo. So when that is thawed and gets put back in your body, what lifestyle have you led from that timeline? Because you've got to bridge that timeline. We've got to be so damn conscious and conscientious of what we're doing, from the choices that people are making in egg freezing, So what kind of health did you have before the egg freezing? Yeah.
Well, I actually treat quite a lot of people who are about to freeze eggs, and that's happening more and more as women get older, that they want to freeze their eggs. And the same kind of preparation is required for an egg freezing as for a conception. It's just that you aren't dealing with the man at that point, you're only dealing with the woman. But, it's still just as important. And as Helen's saying, everything that happens beforehand is so important. And the man contributes to so much in that first trimester, including providing either the toxins or the nutrients that baby needs to start progressing. For example, and we've got all this hoo-ha about B6 at the moment, but the B complex, for example, are required within minutes of conception for that baby to start developing. And those nutrients are taken from the egg and the sperm. The mother doesn't provide until a little bit later. So what goes on in the few months before a conception in both parents is going to make such a difference. And now we know about epigenetics, of course, which we've, it's really, one of the most exciting areas of science is epigenetics, how we can turn on and off genetic expression that we've inherited or that we pass on. So what I say to the patients who come to me is, I will do my best to get you a healthy baby. I said, and we have the added benefit, I call it the steak knives, you will have healthier grandchildren and great-grandchildren as well.
Oh, lovely. The legacy. I love that.
Francesca, I'm so glad you mentioned epigenetics, because I've got my study, Bachelor of Science, is actually geneticist and microbiologist. So I remember being at university where they used to call 99% of our DNA was junk DNA. Like, this is back in the late 1980s. And I'm like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Because you don't know, you're calling it junk DNA like it's space junk. And now, like, as time has gone on and epigenetics has become, research is now telling us more and more what is becoming more evident. And I'm just so grateful that there are more and more people that are now listening.
So I want to jump in.
Because we now know that we can turn on genes through our lifestyle, our toxicity, our nutrition, everything that we know leads to a healthier life also leads to a healthier genetic expression for future generations and helping us to cope with what we've actually inherited from our parents.
It seems to me the through line is about taking responsibility for our own health and well-being back into our hands rather than abdicating it, whether that's, I know in my 20s, taking the contraceptive pill because I had no idea about my cycle, and reading your book, Natural Fertility, Francesca, was a real eye-opener, specifically knowing that you could spontaneously ovulate at the moon phase when you were born, which for me is first quarter moon. That was a revelation. And my understanding, I know Dr. Christiane Northrup has done a study where women who sighted the moon were able to regulate their hormones. Of course, when you Google infertility, you don't see the moon rate a mention, as you don't with these days with menopause, even though the word meno means moon, because there's this stigma of the fear of old wives' tales, superstitious, that it must all be evidence-based and we must trust the experts. What would you say in terms of, for me, as a menstrual shaman, that welcoming girls to the red tent and getting them empowered around knowledge of their own cycle, that's where we need to start.
Well, the interesting thing, of course, is that an average length cycle is 29 and a half days, the same as a lunar month. It was the pill companies that got us into 4 weeks, which was more convenient. And now everybody thinks 28 is the average. And of course it isn't.
That's huge. That is like, thank you for that nugget. Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
There are a lot of assumptions made about cycles, you know, like they always assume that you've got a 28-day cycle, that you ovulate on day 14, that if they check your progesterone on day 21, that's when it's peaking. But of course, that's only true if you ovulated on day 14, and so on and so on. So there are a lot of assumptions made when you're assessing any kind of hormonal situation. It's very complex. Our hormones are very complex. And your adrenals are part of it, and your pituitary ovarian axis is always under siege from all sorts of other things, and so on and so on. So, and we have all these hormone disruptors around us at all times. And the wonderful news is that we have terrific herbs that help with all these endocrine issues and really get things back into a much more regular functioning. You know, we have to work with the liver to make sure it's eliminating hormones properly, but we also have to make sure the pituitary ovarian axis is working properly and so on. And we have the tools to do this. IVF is wonderful technology, but it's basically just a transport system. It gets egg and sperm together. It doesn't actually improve fertility in any other way.
Yes, now, I hear that. It's about, you know, just getting a result, but not looking at the whole person. And on that, I'd like to, there's two other questions I'd like to speak to. One is, what can help women to carry a baby full term so that they're not going through the grief of miscarriage? What would you say would be your first sort of pearl of wisdom that you'd both share with women that are concerned about that? Perhaps they've had miscarriages before.
Well, it's the preconception work. There are all sorts of conditions like autoimmune conditions, thyroid conditions, and so on, which and infections, of course. We test for a whole lot of cervical infections whenever we are doing conception work that most people don't even know are there, let alone to test for. So there are infections, there are thyroid problems which become worse once you're pregnant. There's imbalances in all sorts of ways that can then, so if you do the good preconception work, so our definition of fertility is not just getting you pregnant, it's getting you pregnant with a healthy baby that turns into a healthy child who grows into a healthy adult.
It sounds like it's all about preparing the soil, you know, like before you plant a field, you really need to work the soil. Helen?
And the studies show that there's less chance of allergy and asthma and behavior problems and learning difficulties, and growing into an adult with less chance of cancer and cardiovascular problems and diabetes.
That's
and
huge.
It all starts pre-conception, which of course you then continue the treatment through the pregnancy as well, obviously, and then through breastfeeding, hopefully, so that the whole start is covered. But this
I like commitment to healthy children, you know, given how many kids are dealing with nut allergies and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
Helen, what would you say to that, love?
I would say, especially when there's reoccurring miscarriages, when your doctor says, "Oh, we'll do some investigation after you have another miscarriage," that just does my head in. Like, I advocate for my clients and people. I just go off tap when I hear that. It's like, "Oh, I've only had 2 miscarriages." What? You've only had, you know, we're normalizing that you have to have 2 or 3 miscarriages before we do investigation. So
Medicare won't cover it without 3.
What's that? Sorry?
Medicare won't cover it without 3.
Yeah.
Well, I keep doing the Wallace and Gromit face. That is appalling.
Yeah. And so because if you look at like the Chinese medicine, we talk about the qi in the body, we talk about the strength of the kidneys, and, you know, the yin and the yang of the and I'm not I don't come from the Chinese medicine perspective. This is just passing information on, but we talk about the yin and the yang of the organs, and the kidneys are the yang. And if the kidney does not have enough energy, or you've got like what we call the damp uterus or that cold uterus, the uterine lining is like the bunny rug. It is the very first lining and wrapping that baby, that egg will go in and grow into. So if you're going to have cold, damp uterine lining, that is an indicator that you might be more subjective to miscarriages.
Thank
If
you
your
for that.
progesterone is low, that's another indicator that through the what we call the corpus luteum, which is when the egg comes out, you're left with a shell that starts producing progesterone for a period of time until the mother's brain axis, pituitary gland, starts to go, she's pregnant, more progesterone, and that kind of is the bridge that then will continue. So the corpus luteum, which is basically the shell that's left when the egg is burst forward out of that the follicle, that produces progesterone, and it produces a fair bit of it. But when you're not pregnant, it goes, oh, wow. Well, let's shed, and we're going to start all over again. Follicle stimulating hormone and, comes online. And so we start a process all over again. Now, progesterone is huge for the health of a pregnancy all the way through. So if women are miscarrying, they need to go and get diagnostic work done. And it has also been proven that progesterone, giving progesterone pessaries and creams, etc., does not affect, like even as a synthetic hormone, it does not affect the mother or the baby. So they've done a lot of longitudinal studies on that. So
that's reassuring.
Why doctors say you need to keep having miscarriages before we start figuring out what's going on. Like I advocate quite a bit in go and do an integrative doctor, or go and see someone that is going to do the tests in the profile, the Dutch testing and everything else needed to give you a full picture of what is going on holistically, and then have
I like hearing you speak, because I mean, both of you, there's, you're balancing the science with the embodied wisdom and the natural approach. I think people that maybe haven't gone to a natural fertility clinic may think that it's not that you're witch doctors, but may think that it's, far more old-fashioned, not based
No, it's
in
absolutely
science.
science-based. Natural medicine these days is hugely scientifically based. I've just been in a conference for the whole of the last weekend where the biochemistry and the research that goes on is mind-blowing, So we have extraordinary people in this country doing research into all aspects of biochemistry and health, but also into the amazing natural products that we have in this country. They're the best in the world because we have more government oversight of the quality of our natural products than there is anywhere else. For example, in America, the products aren't even quality controlled by the government at all, whereas here all our herbs and nutrient supplements are classed as medicine and therefore given really strong quality control, whereas in America they're just classed as food and the quality control can be quite pitiful. So we're very lucky here. We have the best naturopathic industry in the world, the best herbs in the world, which we source from all over the world, and they're mostly organically grown as well. The best nutritional science. It's just, we're very, very lucky. And when you're looking at fertility, then it all comes down into a really precise bundle of looking at all of these things, because everything affects fertility. Nothing is exempt.
I like the conversation here also highlights, all the factors that I would imagine would stop a woman taking it personally, thinking she's a failure as a woman if she can't conceive or can't carry a baby to term, because it really is, given all the factors that are involved, particularly when we speak about the environmental pollution such as electromagnetic frequency, the frying of our of our bodies by Wi-Fi and electricity and all of that. I'd like to just speak to the impact on women psychologically and emotionally. Is that something that you also provide support in your work with women, and even with the pressure that places on intimacy and connection and communication in relationships when they're,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Terribly important. Stress management in all its manifestations is a major part of what we do, both in terms of the counselling involved, possibly recommendations and referrals if necessary, but also the use of herbs and nutrients to deal with stress management at that level as well, because there's a physical route to stress management very often as well as an emotional one.
Absolutely.
So I think it's really, really important because stress affects everything, particularly your hormonal and your nutritional balances, which are so important. And trying to conceive and not making it is hugely stressful.
Yeah.
And the stress can come not only from within the person, but from their family and their friends and their environment and the expectations on them. So somehow you have to be able to work with that person, but we have lots of tools to help them with all of that. That's the wonderful thing about it.
That's great. Helen, what would you like to speak?
Yeah, it is highly supercharged emotionally and physically, and the impact that it has on the relationship to self and the relationship with a partner if they are in a partner, cultural as well, familial, all of it has a snowball effect. And it's about coping, and it's about connection, and it's also very much becomes a personal self-worth aspect when delayed fertility takes hold. As I'm an intimacy relationship practitioner, so I actually can do hands-on work as well and somatic therapy. So it's
just
not
explain what somatic therapy is for those who
yeah, so it's not just the talk therapy, but also the body keeps the score. The body keeps the score. So if we're working with someone that may have had trauma or grievances growing up through childhood or even pre-verbal, and it can get quite complicated, but there is something there. Like I'll have people coming to see me and say this and this happened, or my mother's told me these stories, or my family's told me these stories about my birth and my upbringing. And then all of a sudden they're trying to get pregnant, or they've had a termination when they were a lot younger, and now it's carrying very heavily and weighing very heavily on their soul. So if they can't get pregnant, they're thinking that they're being punished. And so that experience is held in the body. So soma is body. It's a Greek word. I'm Greek. I love my Greek. So soma is a Greek word. So soma and somatic therapy is also hands-on work. I'm fortunate enough that in my training that I can actually work with placing my hands on the body and coming into rest and digest. And if someone has experienced something that happened pre-verbally, which means before they had language to put around their experience, and they're losing their voice, and they're just being so affected. And even with thyroid is around the throat area. So you can actually start to unpack some of that. And there's a wonderful amount of space holding for that person to unravel, whether they, even if they don't fully comprehend it in words, they have created space in their body. They feel rested, like rest and digest. They feel spacious.
Can you just explain, when you say rest and digest, you're speaking about the nervous system coming down from being elevated, flight and fight, to
the parasympathetic nervous system, which is basically in a calm response. And so that digestion that has taken place in, the grievances and the mental reflux that takes place, trying to understand, because it's like a tennis match between the left and the right side of the brain. The left brain's keeping the score, the right brain's going, oh, there's prosperity, we're creative, this is a new cycle, we're doing this. And the left side of the brain is like, but the filing cabinet tells me it's this, and this. And so we want to try and bring the whole person in this essence of into me, I see intimacy. And how they're relating to themselves, how they relate to their body.
It seems to me that's key. Like in terms of the transition from maiden to mother, if we're speaking about,
and
life
mattress
stages, the maiden is often very much about, what I want to achieve and, what's out there in the world. Whereas when we come into the mother phase, we're coming home to ourselves. We're listening to our body. We're, embracing perhaps being more ordinary in our life, not trying to achieve these huge lofty goals, but looking at the blessing in the moment. And all of this, getting into a state of rest and digest. I'm thinking for the women, if you're burping and farting and you're bloated all the time, that's a bit of a flag that you're too stressed to even digest your food, isn't it? Let alone conceive a baby.
I think also personal expectations about conception are really important to be able to manage in a more relaxed way, because especially if you've done a bit of preparation and then you're starting to actually attempt the conception, and it's all, I've got to conceive this month, I've got to conceive this month. And of course, stress actually makes it less likely that you're going to conceive. It even means that you may not release the biochemical substances that allow the sperm to penetrate the egg if you're too stressed. And there was a lovely experiment done several years ago. There's a troupe of doctors who dressed up as clowns and went round and made the children laugh. And they went into an IVF transfer room where the women were having the embryos transferred, and they made them all laugh. And the success rate doubled.
Wow, love it.
It's one of the best de-stressors that there is. And some of the IVF clinics in America now give them stand-up routines to listen to.
Fantastic. I love this. I mean, in the Taoist philosophy, humor is used to teach, because when we're relaxed, the mind is open and receptive to new ideas. So it's not just going to relax the body, but the mind. I'm loving stand-up routines.
My friend, how can we also mimic, even if we're going through, or people are going through IVF and they're going to have a transfer or an implantation, how can you mimic your life? That would be, yes, it's happening in a petri dish, it's happening outside of your body, and it's going to be a union medically, internally, but how can you also come into that lovemaking as a meditation? How can you also feel into, well, I would be making love right now, having sex right now. How can I play with my mouth? How can I kiss myself internally? How can I have kisspeptin? How can I have kisspeptin? When we kiss, there's a chemical release that's called kisspeptin. How can I touch my body like my partner is touching my body?
And release.
I love that. And use creative visualization to create a union.
Pull my hair. How can I move? Sorry, I'm getting very theatrical here. But how can I move my body, my hair, my touch? Like these are the kind of things that I tell my people to do. And
also any kind of massage work that is going to release tensions, particularly in the abdominal area. And then if you fail to conceive in your bedroom over and over again, maybe go and make love on the kitchen table.
Love it. Good advice. Good
or
advice.
Whatever, but make it into a joyous occasion, and don't say, I'm going to conceive, I'm going to conceive, I'm going to conceive.
Right.
Say, I've really provided the best possible environment for a conception to occur, and I will be blessed if it does occur this month. Otherwise, we will give it another go next time.
It seems to me that focusing on pleasure, so that through, sensate, releasing of good endorphins, everything's going to be relaxed and open. So rather than being results focused, we've got to make a baby tonight. It's like, how much pleasure
Because it really does affect the male. I mean, like, you know, it's not just hearsay. It truly, the pressure that gets taken place and in the performance. I remember when we did our teacher training and, you know, we were talking about, you know, the women who you want to have consent before being, making love or having sex, what have you. It's like, may I, and this is what we're doing. But I remember, like, this was a real wow moment for me, you know, a very long time ago when I was seeing a couple, and when the male turns around and says to me, I feel like I'm being violated. I feel like, and I'm going to call it, I feel like I'm being violated to the point like I'm being so used for my body. And it was like there was a drop dead, such a quiet moment, because they're human beings, like our partners. They are affected as well. It's just like when women go through IVF, it's not just the person holding the needle that is affected. Both people have their own reaction and response. So this is where whole person health as well as couple health and relatability and relation and intimacy needs to be expressed.
Thanks for acknowledging that. You sent me a validated questionnaire. Can you speak to that, which speaks about the trauma that people experience often in the medical
we see it, and then something happens in research that labels it. So a few years ago, at Cardiff University, I found it on their website originally, but the European Reproductive Association, as well as the American Reproductive Association, which was sponsored by a pharmaceutical company called Merck, but they have created FertiQual, Fertility Quality of Life. It is a measurable instrument. It's a 32 or 36 questions which people can fill out, and it tells you how prone you are at being stressed through the effects the fertility journey is having on your quality of life. And this is such an important measure, one, because people sometimes cry and go, oh my gosh, this is something bigger than just me thinking there's something wrong with me. My quality of life has been affected. And when it can become a bit subjective, so you're slightly removed from this is all my fault and what can I do, when you're like on a hamster wheel. But when you can just create some space and go, wow, over time my quality of life has been affected, people can start to lean in.
That would help pair in relationship, I would imagine. So validation is so healing. If people want to access that survey, where would
it's online, it's free.
What's it called? Just for
FertiQual, FertiQual.
Thank you.
FertiQual.
Lovely. Now,
and the other thing that's affected is a couple's love life, because when they're only trying to conceive and they're only having sex in order to conceive, then the whole expression through their sex life starts to suffer. So I try and make quite sure that I advise my patients always, have just for us sex whenever you don't think that you're fertile, because actually you improve your fertility by having more sex anyway. It's always
I'd go a step further and say, ladies, self-pleasure as often as you can.
Absolutely.
Relax, so that at least you're on the simmer, so he hasn't got to bring you to the boil from, feeling completely...
But we need the men to release sperm as often as possible, and we don't want that to be a joyless activity. So... because otherwise the DNA starts to fragment in the sperm. So we need ejaculation over a longer period of time. And you need the couple to still be expressing their sexual love for each other, because that can be a real victim of an infertile situation or a subfertile situation.
And wouldn't you want to know that you conceived your child out of this loving kindness, this beautiful act of metta, loving kindness, and knowing that this is conscious parenting. This is conscious relating. This is
conscious conception. Yeah.
what
Just
we want
on that, I mean,
to the
I
world.
did that with my daughter. I felt there was a soul there, and so we did a little ceremony where we called in a soul that was coming to help the world, actually, was our intention. Is that something, do you ever speak to creating that sort of a container with your clients?
If they're open to that kind of conversation, absolutely. So you've got to judge the groundwork a little bit.
Sure.
Make sure. Funny story about my conceiving my first child. We worked out the best day for a conception. It turned out to be Friday the 13th.
Fabulous.
So we thought, well, go ahead anyway. It'll be lucky. So we went ahead. Friday the 13th conception. He was born 6 weeks early on April Fool's Day.
Oh, I love it. What a great story. And she's blessed by the goddess. A daughter, yes?
Yeah. Amazing.
I mean,
Friday the 13th has been demonized, but it was sacred to the goddess.
I know. Exactly. It was a wonderful story, yes. So he was born with an innate sense of irony.
Right. Now, I want to speak to both of your personal stories, because every person that comes on this show, I ask them, what was your biggest turning point in life and what saved you at the crossroads? Because, of course, we have many shamanic deaths and rebirths in our life in between each chapter of our lives, for example. So I'm sure there are many in your life, because you're both, women in midlife, and you're an elder now, Francesca. But speaking to this topic today, is there one that comes to mind that you feel comfortable sharing with our audience, specifically sort of what you gained from it, because those that are at that crossroads now, that might be a beacon of hope for them?
Well, I think the biggest transformation for me was becoming a mother. It was a huge transition from a fairly wild youth in the 60s in London. Lots of fun.
Awesome. I'm seeing Austin Powers at this point, Francesca. Awesome.
Well, I'll tell you something. Jimi Hendrix owes me 2 and 6pence.
Wow. Rock on.
So becoming a mother was total transition for me. And I think what I experienced at that time was just this sort of, I don't know how to explain it, overwhelming experience of love for my child that was beyond any other love that I'd ever had, which were also, important to me. But yes, it was a transforming experience to become a mother. And I think that up till then, my involvement in natural fertility had been more about contraception. And in order to conceive my child, it became about conception, and becoming a mother really really made that more solid for me as being something of just, huge life-changing experience once you become a mother. And I wanted to be able to enable as many women to go through that as possible, because I think it's, unless you choose not to, which is a perfectly valid choice, it's something that you really don't want to miss out on, because it's extraordinary.
I love hearing that, Francesca, because what it conveys to me is why you do this is love. That you want to give as many women as possible that heart-opening experience that you experienced in your transition. So that's such a beautiful motivation, and it makes sense why you've done this work for 40 years, because, if the motivation isn't strong, you're not going to sustain that output. So that's a beautiful share. Helen, what about you?
Yeah, very similar to Francesca. I was around 16 where I had this absolute trillions of cells screaming at me that I needed to become a mother. And I'm like, wow.
I know, it just comes at you, doesn't it? All of a sudden, you do it.
And I'm like, whoa. Now I know there's even a word for it. It's matre sense. It's actually the 7th sense. Matre sense. It's
Come
when,
on.
yeah. So
That's a revelation. Go on.
matre sense is basically when a woman's maternal instinct starts to really kick in, and you start to see play centers, toys, doctors, like you literally daycare centers, like your whole world starts shaping around about children, mothering, nurturing, etc. And I remember going to my mum at the time and going, Mum, you know, Greek Orthodox and what have you, and Mum, I've got this really strong feeling like it's insatiable, that I just have to tell you that if I need to have a baby in this lifetime or I'm going to die. So, and then I went one step further, that if I had a terminal illness that wasn't going to affect my baby, I was going to go and have a baby. And she went, she does her cross and she goes, "You're having sex?" And I went, "Oh my gosh, my mother doesn't know what I'm going, like, no. So I had my children, but the second part to that was,
hang on. How old were you? Like between
I
you
had
had
my
that at
son when he was
16. That's young.
Yeah.
So 23, you had your first. Thank you.
And 26, I had my second. So, but I was a bit of a tomboy growing up. So even though I had like a split personality, couldn't wait, like real maternal, but also had a tomboyish, trying to get close to my dad. I'm here, look at me, lots of brute, lots of strength, etc. And so it was that moment that I gave birth, like literally. And I know the listeners are going to go, "Oh my God," with what I'm about to say, but I'm going to put it into context. The moment I gave birth, and I gave birth to my son, and he lay on me, my husband at the time turned around. One of the things that he said, there was a lot of love there, but one of the things that he said was, "Gee, I'm glad I'm a bloke." And I love him, precious man. Like, it was just what I really need to put it in context for our listeners as well.
Yeah.
Then I turned around, and then again, all those trillion cells in my body turned around, and I finally embodied my feminine in that moment. I turned around, I looked at him with such softness, and I just said to him in response, "And I'm glad I'm not." And that was like a real union, an internal marriage for me. Internal marriage.
How healing.
What's that?
How healing to think that in that moment, that internalized misogyny,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Which any daughter growing up in a patriarchy is on a journey to heal, whether she knows it or not.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, Helen. Thank you for sharing. Now, I want to make sure we have time for both of you to share your offerings with the audience.
Yes.
So you've both got something that is time specific as well as evergreen, because people will be coming to listen to this not just when we release it for the new moon this month, on August the 23rd or 22nd, depending on your time zone, 2025, but those that find it later on. So Francesca, would you like to go first and share what it is that you'd like to offer our listening audience?
So my clinic, the Jocelyn Centre, is in Sydney, but I work mostly remotely these days through Zoom. So if people want to see me for treatment, for consultation, whether it's for fertility, preconception, preconception before IVF, preconception before natural conception, any kind of fertility or any other reproductive health issue, we're offering a $50 off the initial consultation cost. They need to arrange this through reception, and the code they need to quote is NFM, which is Natural Fertility Management. That's us. NFM Moon, being you. Okay. So
and is that uppercase, lowercase? I mean, we can put it in the
NFM, M, lowercase, OON. So NFM and then Moon with an uppercase M, all one word. But if they just say NFM Moon to the receptionist, then, you know, they don't have to say, I'm saying it in uppercase, you know. So
right.
If they want to ring reception or email reception, they can get $50 off the initial consultation fee for any treatment program that they want to sign up to. Our reception phone number is 0292689000, or emailing to inquiries@fertility.com.au. That's our website, fertility.com.au, inquiries at. And all fees and consultation details will be explained to them at that point. And if they are booking in for a conception program, all people who come to me for conception, we have a completely free complimentary session first to just discuss the program and whether it's appropriate for them and whether they know what's going to be involved. So that first chat will be free, and then they'll get $50 off the initial consultation.
Fantastic.
If they want a publication, so the most recent publication that we have is a digital publication called The Complete Guide to Optimum Conception, and it's available on our website. And they can also get a 10% discount off that. And the code is NFM-10, and the NFM is lowercase NFM-10 gives them a 10% discount off the guide. And with the guide, they get a charting app, which is much, much more effective and educational than any of the other charting apps on the market, which are mostly inaccurate because they try and predict things, whereas ours is educational and diagnostic. And they get
looking at what's actually happening in the body, like the change in, I don't like the term cervical mucus. I mean, you know, I much prefer the yogic tantric amrita. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
How we refer to our bodies is part of our healing of that internalized misogyny. But it's so empowering to learn to recognize when you're ovulating and when
you're symptom pictures. So our charting app goes through a very detailed recording of what they put in about all their cycle details, which helps me when I'm treating them as well, obviously, because it's diagnostic. And they also get a really deep relaxation, pro-fertility relaxation visualization as part of the guide. So the guide is usually, I think, 99.9, and they'll get a 10% discount with the code NFM-10, lowercase NFM. Or if they want to do any kind of treatment, they can do all of that through. They need to contact reception and talk it through and explain where they're coming from.
It's wonderful, since we have a global audience, that, you know, if people are anywhere in the world, they can access you, you know, via Zoom consults.
Well, no, we're not insured to treat people that are overseas.
Oh, good point.
So the overseas people would be better off getting the guide off the website, because that is incredibly comprehensive about the charting, about fertility, about pathology, about testing, about nutrients, about lifestyle, about diet. It's all in there.
Fantastic. Okay, so if you're based in Australia, anywhere nationally, yes, you can have Zoom sessions with Francesca. If you're anywhere else in the world, go with the publication. Thank you. Helen.
Yes.
Share, I know you've got this Fertility Expo coming up. Would you like to tell us about that in Melbourne?
Oh my goodness. I was shaken and stirred about needing to create a Fertility Expo. And for the listeners listening, I used to work in global pharmaceuticals. So I've got for 18 years, and labeling and et cetera, et cetera. So but then I was also invited to work at an IVF hospital doing lifestyle pilot program for 6 months. So I managed to.
What a journey you've had.
Go on.
So good on you. Good on that IVF clinic too.
Yeah, incredible. So 6 months, and you know, lots of evidence. And because I also owned a fitness studio at the time, you know, we took clients and patients and trained them over like a 2-year period, and had about a 70% success rate because of lifestyle factors. So just the care, we talked about exercise before. There was, you know, food, and this was like 18 years ago, right? 18 years ago. So full circle now, people think that there's a big, like a divorce, that it has to be natural and it's got to be IVF. Now, because I've worked across medical as well as holistic, I'm wanting everyone to play together. And this is exactly what's happening. So with the Melbourne Fertility Expo, we have got IVF clinics as well as holistic therapists, complementary therapists, doctors, etc., presenters, workshops, talking to also the diversification of the modern family. So from preconception care, and Francesca, I'll be talking about Sydney next, so we're going to have a conversation about
Right, so glad to connect you
happening in Melbourne in November, on November the 8th. And
My birthday.
I'm a Scorpio too. Can I just say that is exact Beltane in Australia, the rites of spring. You couldn't choose a better day to go and go to a fertility expo. Go on.
Amazing. So we have got we've got people, we've got presenters, we've got like 22 speakers, workshops. Yeah. So people can come and be educated on their journey through all choices, including surrogacy, the donor journey, LGBTQI friendly, heteronormative, all pathways to parenthood is welcome, as well as pregnancy and postpartum, because we want to be able to make sure that people are educated, not just at the, I just got pregnant and what do I do now? But we want to make sure that people have got
through the pregnancy and then through the breastfeeding, hopefully, and so on, because anything can undermine what you've already done if you don't continue.
Yeah. So that's happening on the 8th of November, and it's happening in Melbourne, which is amazing. And my business partner and I have got the Australian Fertility Expo. So we're going to be taking this around Australia. So It is my absolute heart and soul that for the rest of whatever part of my lifetime that I'm, going to continue doing fertility, that if we can try and put a dent on fertility, the stats that you said before, 1 in 6 in Australia suffering.
That's global statistic too, by the way.
It is, I know. So it's in my dharma that I wish to slow down those statistics. And beyond the statistics, it's people cultivating their families, people birthing and having these experiences that we've all spoken about today. That's what we desire, and that's my big why.
It makes me feel like the matra sense that you spoke of, it wasn't just a personal calling to become a mother, but a personal calling to serve the mothers of the world. Yeah, that is beautiful. Yeah. So I'm curious, because I would have thought if women were in another state or even in New Zealand, they might want to fly in to attend the expo. But when you say you're going to take it on the road, what sort of time frame are you thinking? 26, 27? Like,
absolutely. Yep. And when we get, like, this is the inaugural one. There was a Canberra one, but it was a very different, not very different. It was just a different format and style. So this is the first one being like an expo where people are walking through, they can sit and also have, be educated and choose their journey. We've got incredible speakers that have come forth. And they're also coming nationally. So people are flying from Western Australia and from Queensland and etc. Sydney.
That's great to bring together everyone as a community. Like, that's real leadership.
Exactly.
Sorry, Helen, did you have anything to do with the Fertility Expo? It was about 5 years ago in Sydney. I had quite a lot to do with that. No, it wasn't you. Okay.
Yeah.
Similar idea of bringing everybody together, because I work very closely with a number of IVF clinics, and I think what you're doing is absolutely right. You've got to bring all of these things together for people to understand what choices and options they have.
Yeah, because
my friend, I find it's a public health service. And that's how I'm coming across. This is how I'm speaking to our professionals and the businesses. It's like, this is a stage of public health service, and you've got a responsibility if you choose to come and play under this one space. And this is the unity. People are going to feel like, wow, they're not going to feel like they're being piecemeal. They're going to, ideally, we want people to feel like it's whole person centered health.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
that's my thing. So that is the event. Tickets are on sale, and my friends, they are not very expensive for the day. So they're starting at $30. And if you've got a
very accessible, yeah. So it's a one-day event on November 8th.
So it's not an expensive. We're not here to rob you of your money. We are really and truly wanting to get the information out to the people that need it the most. So that's what's happening. And for my other offer, just very quickly,
go for it. You've got time.
Evergreen. I have done a 6-day course. It's called Fertile Ready in 6 days. But what it is, it talks about the 6 pillars, the main pillars that I feel and I know are the building blocks to doing more work and building on that. And it involves menstrual health, so looking at your menstrual health, and so they can fill out a form, and then I can jump on the phone and actually talk to them about, and we're talking about the indicators, your cycle, your blood, your clots, are you irregular, are you a short cycler, which means less than X amount of days, less than 27 days, are you a long cycler? So there's a lot of different questions that I ask in that questionnaire for me to then be able to just pick up on some things that might be predisposed for them to consider on their fertility journey. So I go through 6 pillars in those 6 days, and that you go at it at your own pace, and that is called Fertile Ready in 6 days, and that is a free course that I offer.
Great. Look, thank you so much, both of you. It's been such a fun conversation. I like, both of you, you can tell it's your life's work, and you really know your stuff, but you're both very personable. I would feel very comfortable coming to either of you. So it's been a pleasure to have you both here. I would imagine if other people are inspired to create expos in other parts of the world, you'd be wonderful presenters, wonderful speakers. Is that something you're open to doing, or online summits, both of you?
Absolutely.
Well, yes, I've spoken around the world many times.
Great. I'm sure you have. I mean, it says it in the bio.
Yeah.
So we're going to close just by taking a moment to invite the listening audience, and we will as well, before we blow out our candles for the women that we invoked prayers and blessings for earlier. I'm just being reminded I need to do a shameful plug myself. So the women who are journeying menopause or perimenopause, I've got a retreat in Morocco starting on the 1st of September.
That's exactly what every perimenopausal woman needs. Is a
Isn't
retreat.
Yes. To me, the fact that the Kundalini, the life force, moves up to the crown at the age of 49, and if we think that the world was created in 7 days, well, we were created in those 7 cycles, and that on the 7th day he rested. Well, when it reaches to the crown, we need a rest. We need time to distill, and that's why I'm wearing a turban. My intuition said, right, you got to honor your Tupperware, your sacred power. Now you're a menopausal woman. So I'm like, okay, it's happening. So the invitation is if you want to journey perimenopause, which can start young and people don't even know that it's perimenopause. I certainly didn't, and it was a 12-year journey for me. then there's a discovery call recording on the website, themoonwoman.com. And on the other side is a retreat in Bali, again for women in midlife. But this is not so much about the restructuring that happens internally and alchemically within us, within our energy field and our bodies, but how we need to then restructure our life when all of our values change, when we shift from the mother phase into the mage or the magus, which is, well, the word peri means supernatural. So that's a key, it's when life gets really magical. So thanks for that. Now we can conclude our invocation. So, I'd just like to invite everyone to turn the gaze inwards by closing the eyes and just sending your heart light into the center of a circle with all the women that are listening, into that one heart of sisterhood. And we create a beautiful opening of a beautiful, luscious pink rose in that central focus. And we place into that lovely pink rose the hearts, the minds, the souls, and the bodies of all the women around the world who are doing the great service of bringing through souls that are wanting to incarnate and experience life in this garden planet. It is a heroic journey, and we bow to you and thank you and invoke all the support, all the love that you need in order to create that beautiful garden within you. And these women that were here today as my guests are a wonderful resource, a wonderful starting point, and allies for that journey. So with that, we'll blow out our candles, sending you love. And knowing that the power of prayer is statistically proven. So the more we come together in a unified field, the more we will heal, not just the earth, but our bodies and our relationship to them, because everything is interconnected, of course, in the quantum field, and we are fractals of Gaia, the mother. So blessings on you both, on your body of work, on your service to the collective sisterhood. It's been a great honor to sit with you today, and a joy, an absolute joy. You're both really real and authentic. Love Australian women. So I'm sure we're going to get lots of lovely comments. So if you're watching this and there's someone you intuitively go, oh, I'd love to share this with her, do. We empower each other through, that's the way feminine changes the world, like shooting strawberry runners out. We do it from the grassroots, from the ground up, through the power of community. So if someone is coming to mind intuitively that you think this conversation would be soul food, would be nourishing, send it to them, share it with them, or put it on your socials. And if you haven't already subscribed to the show, there's an invitation so you don't miss the next episode. So thanks again. And best of luck with the expo.
Thank you. Thank you, Francesca. Thank you, Tanishka.
Thank you for both of you. Been a joy to be talking with you both.
Yes.
Yeah, good women. All right. Stay on the line. I'm just going to play the outro. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Sisters of the Moon. To receive a notification when it's time to meet again, click the button to subscribe, and we'll see you here next time we gather in the Moon Lodge. Until then, blessed be your thoughts, words, and deeds under the guiding light of Grandmother Moon.